What's up? It's the Spotlight Logan Knight. I'm sitting here about to be drinking at Moe's. I can't wait for y'all to hear this episode and come listen to me spout off on nonsense for like an hour straight. I'm really good at it. Come check us out.
All right, everybody. Want to thank Reaper Apparel for having Drinkin at Moe's be a brand ambassador. They encourage everybody to break out of that comfort zone, live their best self, which, hey, that's what got me starting the podcast. But they got great clothing, great apparel, t-shirts, hoodies, beanies, hats, all that good stuff. Be sure, link will be in the description, and use the code Drinkin at Moe's to get 10% off your order. Let's fucking go.
All right, everybody, welcome to Drinkin at Moe's. Big Mo here. YouTube, as always, like, subscribe, comment, share all the good shit because it helps with the pain in the ass algorithm they got over there. And I'm not monetized yet, so I will cuss all the hell I want. We are on most places you can find your podcast. Today, I'm excited to have with me Logan Knight. How are you doing?
What's up? I'm good. I'm tired. It is very, very hot in Oklahoma. I don't know where you're based out of, but Oklahoma is actually based out of hell right now.
That's where we were last week.
But it makes for good tanning, and every good pro wrestler needs a good tan. So.
Oh yeah. No. I'm based out of Omaha, Nebraska, and we were there last week. It was ungodly. Like I joked around with a few different people that it's like Nebraska, because most people don't realize that we get the worst of both seasons up here. We get the crazy ass heat in the summer. We freeze our asses off in the winter. And like I said, I joked with a few people last week. I'm like, Nebraska, where you ask yourself 2 seasons out of the year, why do I live where the air hurts my face?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I've been driving down to Texas a bunch. Like, I work Texas almost every other month, or every month now. But like every time I go, I'm like, why is it 20 degrees cooler here? That makes no sense.
You know what? I would think, because, you think the more south you get, the hotter it's going to get. But yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Now, first thing I'd like to start off with my first time guest is, what got you started as a fan? And then what got you decided to make the leap into the business?
So as a fan, like, what got me hooked, it's kind of like a hand-in-hand story, because what made me a fan made me realize I wanted to be a pro wrestler. It's just the pro wrestling story comes about, like, give or take 15 years after I become a fan. So there's some time in between. But I was born in 1999, and around that time, I think it was about 2001, Edge, Christian, Hardys, and the Dudleys all had that amazing ladder match. My uncle, I was like 3 at the time, so this had to be one of my first cognitive memories. But like, my uncle was showing me the Hardys and Edge and Christian and stuff like that. It was like we had bought WrestleMania for the day, and I was watching WrestleMania, and I was 3 years old, so obviously it wasn't too invested. But by the time I watched more and more wrestling, I was like, what is this shit? I'm like, I want to do this like all the time. Yeah. And it was one of those things that, like, it's like being an astronaut or like a pop star or like a movie star. When you're a kid or like a teenager, you're like, yeah, that's never gonna happen. It's like one of those things, like a pipe dream almost.
Oh yeah.
So I spent pretty much the rest of my teenage and child life thinking it was impossible, and just doing like trampoline backyard stuff with my friends. Not like backyard feds or anything, but we'd practice moves on each other in the backyard and stuff like that. I kept always trying to look up on the internet, like, Oklahoma wrestling. And I always got sent to, like, Oklahoma's huge for collegiate and amateur wrestling. Yeah. And so I always got sent the other direction because they're like, oh no, we're not going to show you how to do that shit. We're going to show you how to do this stuff. And so I never knew about it. And when I was about 19, I saw a flyer at my local college for Mid-South in Oklahoma City. And so I went there in 2018, September of 2018. And I was like mesmerized. Obviously, I watch wrestling every week at this point. I was like, I'm a huge wrestling fan, just never thought past it. But I watched the whole show and I stayed for probably like 10 minutes after the show and just stared at everybody tear down the ring because I was just like amazed. And a couple of the wrestlers came over and asked me if I wanted to start training. And there you go, off to the races after that. So it was kind of like, I don't know, almost like God-given at that point because I was like, man, how do I be a wrestler? And these other guys came up to me right after and they're like, hey, do you want to be a wrestler?
Odd how it works out like that sometimes. I know kind of similar how I got into, being a fan, where I believe it was my uncle, my now late uncle, one time, I forget who it was, but it was between either, I want to say it was either Hogan or Warrior, that I was like, I saw the crowds and how they responded to those guys coming out, and I'm like, this is the coolest stuff ever.
Yeah, and I never realized that's exactly what I wanted to do because after I kind of just like settled on wrestling being a pipe dream when I was a kid, I started to move on to other stuff I wanted to do. I did theater all the way through school, so I did theater, and then I played sports. I did football and basketball, and then I did music, and I was trying to think like, because all those things, I had a ton of fun doing all those things, but there was always something. There was something that wasn't quite there, or like when I put my mind to things, like usually I don't like doing a bunch of things and being a Renaissance man, but when I put my mind to something, I'm usually pretty good at it. So I felt like I was doing it at those things, but like something to satisfy me was feeling missing. And I think about a year into wrestling, everything sort of just like clicked for me. I was like, oh my God, wrestling is the embodiment of everything I've ever tried to do with my life. It's just like, I want to be a performer. I want to entertain people, and all the things I've done before. The thing I enjoy the most is the entertainment aspect.
Oh yeah. No, oh man. I know the people that I gravitate towards are those intense personalities. Like, I mean, going back, date me, I was born in 83, and some of my earliest memories of some of those intense guys were like the Road Warriors or Bruiser Brody, and just those guys where you're just like, holy crap, those guys are nuts.
Yeah.
And, then getting into the podcast here, I'm like you mentioned thinking, wrestling was a bit of a pipe dream. Like I was thinking even after I got started, I was like, man, some of these people that I'm like, man, it would be cool to have them on, but I'm like, man, they're such a big name. They aren't gonna. And then I just was like, you know what? Might be a long shot, but let's see if it sticks. And
yeah, you always got to try, man. I remember seeing, like, there's this guy that does podcasts on YouTube for like really famous guys that aren't like really in the business anymore. Like Rob Van Dam, he's done Raven, a couple other people too that I can't, like, he's in Honky Tonk Man. But like he just pays for like he either goes to a show that they're like working, or he pays for a hotel room setup, and he'll just like do a like filmed podcast type thing as if it was like a booking to them. And I'm like, that's got to be expensive at some degree, but God, is the hour to two of valuable information not awesome?
Oh God, yeah. Like some of the people that I've had on were like I mentioned, Billy Starks, Terry Silkin, guy that used to own Ring of Honor. And I seem to, oddly enough, have developed a bit of a following in the deathmatch community. I've had like Alex Colon, Madman Pondo. God, who else? I'm having a brain fart. Oh,
Rim.
The guy that won the last CZW Tournament of Death, Bobby Beverly. I actually just last week recorded with John Wayne Murdoch, and I'm thinking like, there are no way some of these guys are going to want to be on. I'm like, let's see. And then oddly enough, it ended up working. And I'm like, holy crap. Even to this
I saw
day,
you do a podcast with Remington, and Remington's one of my like really close friends. So I was like, damn it, you beat me.
I actually just what was that one with him? Like a couple days after John Wayne Murdoch. And I'm actually releasing their episodes as of recording this next week. Both of them next week. So it's going to be another bit of a death match week for me, which is it's so weird because I've always been an admirer, but it was like, I wonder how. And then for some reason, I seem to have developed a little bit of a following, like I said. So it's kind of wild to me.
Indie wrestlers love any outlet to make their name known, dude. So podcasts are such a valuable resource. Like I know last year I was doing a lot of podcast bookings, but I only did like 6. But I feel like that's still like every other month you throw a podcast out there and be like, hey, here's what I'm doing. Here's what's about to happen. You know?
And oh man, one thing that I always love talking with them and with everybody I've had on, whenever I can actually remember to put it in my notes, is different training stories, because I have that question about, when you decided to make the leap into the business. I love hearing different training stories, because sometimes you have the people that have the bit of a larger building, but then you have those people that have like a tiny ass garage or a barn or some shit. That is just wild hearing some of them. What were some of your stories from training?
So my training situation was very weirdly handled. I like I said, I went to Mid-South. They wanted me to start training as a wrestler at the end of 2018. The promoter, bless his heart, he's not with us anymore, but he was not he's a little bit carny when it comes to money. That's nothing on him. Respect to the guy, but it is a money business, so I get it. For a couple of months, I was paying for training to the booker and not like a trainer. I was paying the promoter of the company to get training, and he told me to show up to shows. But as most indie shows go, there's one show a month. And as far as training goes, in my personal opinion, if you're getting trained once a month, it's going to be a real long time before you hit the ring. So after a couple of months, the guy that was supposed to train me, I contacted him to see what had happened or fell through, or maybe something didn't get communicated. And sure enough, I was right on the latter half. He was just taking my money and didn't tell the guy. I was showing up to shows and working security and meeting up. Don't get me wrong, it was a great experience. I was working security for a really, at the time, big show in Oklahoma. I got to meet a couple people like Abyss and Hacksaw Jim Duggan and stuff like that. So it was very beneficial for my career at the time, because as an 18, 19-year-old getting to sit in a car with the likes of like MVP or Hacksaw Jim Duggan or who did I just mention? Abyss. Getting to just hear them talk for like 2 hours, even if it was like their shitty drive to the airport. Like I was thrilled. So after that, there was someone told me about a training facility in Bristow, Oklahoma, which from where I was living at the time was it was 70 miles there, 70 miles back. And I did it twice a week. So I was doing 150 miles twice a week to get wrestling training. And everybody that knew me while I was in college, because I was still going to college at the time while I first started training, and like my family, they were like, are you crazy? And I was like, maybe just like a little bit. Like, but I did get training from a guy that used to go to FCW. His name's Brandon Broom. He was there like, or did I say that right? Was it Florida champion? Yeah, Florida, like before NXT.
Yeah.
He was there early 2000s and stuff like that with like the big hit class, like John Cena, Randy Orton, them guys. So he was working over there. So I was like, oh, dang, this might be a pretty good shot for me. And he,
All right, everybody, welcome back. Technical difficulty, but like I said, we're back. So we left off, we were talking about training with the guy that had been at FCW.
Yeah. So Brandon Groom, I went to Bristow for, I want to say 6, maybe 7 or 8 months. I was there for twice a week training. That's where I met my best friend and now tag team partner, Derek James. He had been training there for about 3 years prior. He started training when he was 14, and I didn't know that was a possibility. So I am a wee bit jealous of him. But yeah, so I started training with them, and that got me really grounded on basics as far as like anything I needed to know to run a basic, simple match. I learned just chain, like shoot wrestling kind of style, because he came from an amateur background. He was a former like Oklahoma State champion, so he knew about how to do. I hate saying actual wrestling. I mean amateur wrestling, like really just like gritty grappling type stuff. So I got to learn a lot of that kind of thing to be able to hang with people that can actually do that kind of thing in the ring. After that, I started traveling with Derek, my buddy, because he was getting booked on shows where you didn't need a license to work. You just, it was native ground. So they didn't have to follow federal law and have a like wrestling commission and stuff like that. Granted, I did not think I was going to be working on that card that I just showed up with, because like I'm sure you hear all the time in wrestling, show up and like pay your dues and maybe you'll get something. I wasn't thinking about maybe getting something. I was just going to watch some cool wrestling, and I did not think I was ready. However, I got thrown in very early and did a battle royal, Royal Rumble type situation, which not hard, but was definitely too soon, I will say. I worked another match for that same company, and then subsequently got like hurt playing casual pickup basketball with my friends. I tore a tendon in my ankle, or not. I didn't tear it completely, but I had sprained my ankle so bad before like an actual major tear that I still just needed surgery either way. So I was out until about March of 2020, and I don't know if you know about March of 2020, but
we try to forget about that time.
Yeah, very, very questionable time to start wrestling again. But I did get proper training as far as like the basics. But when I had come back in the middle of that COVID era, Oklahoma did not shut down for wrestling, dude. Like they maybe shut down for a month, and then everybody was like back at it. It was highly irresponsible, I will say. But it allowed me to get a lot of reps where I probably shouldn't have been able to get them, because sorry, casual jazz music. But I once I had come back, I was living in Oklahoma City at the time, where Mid-South was Mid-South no longer was a company because they just stopped doing shows. They went under. At that point, the guy that was originally supposed to train me at Mid-South actually became my trainer at this point. He helped me tremendously on just putting ones and twos and clicking dots in wrestling, because like there's so much that like they don't teach you in wrestling school as far as like the wrestling business or how you need to carry yourself or handle yourself. Or I'm sure some places do this, but most pro wrestling schools around here, they teach you how to wrestle, and then they make you figure out a character. They make you figure out how to do business. You're kind of on your own. So he really smartened me up, and I obviously consider Brandon my trainer, but I also consider Drake Gallows, who is the guy I'm mentioning now. He helped me so much for my career. I feel like I would have been at like a dead plateau still now if he didn't help me out. He gave me my nickname actually because he had told me about he had a couple of like gimmick ideas, because guys do that all the time. They have all these gimmick ideas in their head, but it's like, oh, but that's not me. I don't know if I could do that kind of thing. And I draw a lot of inspiration from like Ric Flair, The Miz, the Young Bucks, like 90s Shawn Michaels. I really, really like the flamboyant, like I can work old school, but I can also do the craziest thing you've ever seen in your life, like that kind of thing. I've always appreciated that kind of wrestling. And so when he was thinking about that, he remembered that he tried to give this character to a girl that had been training before me. Her name was Nikki Knight. She conveniently had the same last name as me. he tried to give her this gimmick called the Spotlight Nikki Knight, and she didn't bite, thankfully, because once he had finally mentioned this character to me at a training session, he just mentioned the nickname and the people I relate to. He didn't even like give me the full character. He just gave me the nickname, and my brain just like, it was like one of those like light bulb above the head moments. I was like, oh my God. I was like, this is gonna get me somewhere, dude. Like
yeah, no, that's awesome. I love hearing those origin stories, and man, I can only imagine hearing that one and be like, light bulb.
Yeah, because like I was talking to him about the same stuff I was talking to you about. Like I had grown up appreciating the entertainment and performance for other people. I love performing for other people, so it's like I used to get bullied a lot growing up for liking wrestling, funny enough, because it's like, oh, you like that stuff, like you're a weirdo, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I used to get bullied for that kind of thing, and I grew up poor, so I wasn't like incredibly popular with everybody at school. So I was thinking, wow, I got a chip on my shoulder from just like kind of a shit childhood, and then anything that was good for me growing up was like the adoration I got for doing cool things like performing and such, like theater, basketball, football. It was always like, I really appreciated those moments where it's like, I don't know, your kid just scored his first touchdown and it's the parents going, yeah. I love when it's everybody's like that. Like, I don't know, wrestling's beautiful in a way that it can make everybody feel any emotion at like any given time. And so that's what I kind of like think of with the Spotlight. It's like, for the most part, I'm a heel everywhere I go. And it's tough because like I do believe in kayfabe, but I also do separate my heelish Spotlight Logan Knight kind of thing from actual Logan Knight, because I'm not a bad guy, but like I have a bad problem about turning it off as soon as I get to the merch table. As soon as I get to the merch table, I'm the nicest person you've ever met in your life because I'm trying to make enough gas money to go home. So like, I have gotten comments about that. Like, I feel like I'm a great heel, but some people have been like, you're not a great heel because you're too personable on social media. Well, it's like, what the fuck is this about then? Because like, you got to get yourself out there. Indie wrestling is entirely about getting yourself out there. So.
Oh yeah, no, I can totally understand, because especially on the indie scene, it's like, okay, I want to keep up this and make it, I guess, air quotes, believable, but then it's like, I also want to make money from my stuff, so I can't be a complete
if I piss every little kid off in there, I'm not going to sell anything, but I like to make sure that I establish my heat, and then if I make any babies or grown men cry, I'll come up to them after and be like, "It was fun, right? It was fun. You enjoyed yourself." But no, that's what the Spotlight character thing is all about. I want to have as much eyes on me as possible. It doesn't matter if I'm doing good deeds or you just seen me do the Randy Orton, Jeff Hardy ear hole spot to somebody. Like, it doesn't matter if I'm being the worst person ever. I just want you to watch my stuff. That's it.
Oh man. Two things that off of some stuff you just said there. One, the ear hole spot. I swear I don't know why I had not seen that sooner before that moment. Like, I'd see people with those things in their ears, and I'm like, man, it would be so easy in like a hardcore match just to take a screwdriver and just
I think it's probably because most people are not insane like Jeff Hardy. That might be the determining factor right there.
That, and damn it, pulling another brain fart, but shit happens. Anyways, to kind of go on to another topic, because I pulled a brain fart on what I was about to. I probably should have written that shit down. But one thing that I talked with the promoter out at Warrior Wrestling, based out of Chicago, a lot, because they bring in, like, they have some established talent, some pretty big names, but then they also bring in a lot of people that, I know I haven't necessarily heard so much of, which I like, because, I like getting introduced to new things, new people, new characters. And some places that I've seen on social media with you before, one was Majestic Championship Wrestling.
Yeah.
What is a show there like, and what sets them apart? Because that's the thing with independent wrestling these days is, you know, there's so many options, so much variety out there. It can be a little tricky sometimes setting one show apart from another.
Right. Oklahoma does kind of have that problem in the sense that we're not particularly one of the biggest states. Like, we are a pretty large state, but in comparison to how large of a state we are, I think we have like 9 or 10 active companies in the state right now. And to put a little like bigger bubble on that, we have maybe 70 wrestlers that are like based out of this state. So you start to have storylines or rivalries or other things bleed into other promotions, which can become a problem at times. People learn over time. I kind of learned this year to separate yourself, like, because when I first started, it was reps. I need reps. I need to go everywhere I possibly can, which I'm still in that mode right now, but I'm more in the sense of I value myself. It's not like, oh, I'll come and work for a hot dog and a handshake, brother. Just give me a chance, like that kind of thing. So people have started to have more devoted rosters, but obviously we're independent contractors, so you can't just be like, oh, if you work there, you can't work here kind of thing. But
yeah.
You're most likely not going to have a fun time. You're probably going to work some squash match or just not get anything you want. I think, in my personal experience, Majestic is an amazing company. I have put a ton of effort into the company because not only do I want to be a wrestler, I see this as being something I'm going to do for the rest of my life. Obviously, when my body has told me it's done, my mind is going to continue to go, and I'm not going to be able to just not be a part of wrestling. So I like to give a little more effort than's probably what's needed from a wrestler. I just like to make sure that like the guys on the cards are sending in promos. I like to make sure that like we're not just like showing up on the weekends to wrestle. Like, I want to make sure like y'all are working out or like watching wrestling at least. Like, at the very least, are you watching the current product? Because if you're not, I understand nobody might like the current product right now. That's a conversation for another fucking time. But like, you gotta at least know what's going on so you're not copying it to like correctly. Majestic, in my eyes, is one of the best companies in Oklahoma, if not on the rise to be the best company. They started in October of last year. The guy that owns the company was just a fan. He really liked everything that everyone was doing, but he felt like there was something maybe not going on right, which from a fan, that's probably not a good thing to hear. And so everybody, as you can imagine, was probably a little standoffish about a fan starting a promotion and stuff like that. But we're all fans when we first start out. So it's like, what else was he supposed to be? Was he supposed to be like a bondsman, a bail broker? Like, what did you want this guy to be? He started the company in October and he runs about every other month. He runs every month now, that things have kind of like picked up. But I think what sets Majestic apart is the fact that it's not based around like being a native, but it runs in the native territories and it's owned by natives. So you don't have to have like a wrestling license, which to some people may sound like we're just getting away with carny backyard bullshit, but it's so we can wrestle. We have intergender laws in Oklahoma. You can't wrestle women. We have deathmatch laws in Oklahoma. You can't have death matches, or you can have very, very restricted hardcore matches. So it's like, when we have a company that isn't running under the same sanctions as every other company, it sets them apart by miles, millions of miles, because you just open the door for the same. There's maybe 6 women in Oklahoma. They don't have to wrestle each other every show now. They can be wrestling the boys, which we've wanted forever, because Oklahoma is weird. Oklahoma, outside of wrestling, is called the modern frontier, but inside of wrestling it kind of is the modern frontier too, because we like old school wrestling, but we also like new school, where it's like AEW, or you wrestle women, or that kind of thing. It's like, it's weird. So like, I think Majestic is fantastic.
Oh, shit. All right, man. We weren't kidding about the damn heat there in Oklahoma. I know it was bad here in Nebraska last week, but whew. All right, here we go. We were on Majestic, and it sounds like they're one hell of a promotion. That's awesome to hear.
Yeah, and like that's the thing. Like other people are always going to say what they want about another promotion. Like no promoter likes having to compete with another promotion, regardless of if it's like in their territory or not.
Yeah.
So Oscar, the promoter, has in a sense reached some backlash from other promoters in that aspect, because they're like, oh, you're just a fan. Like, who do you think you are? That kind of thing. But
Yeah.
I support Oscar 100%. He has been very nice to me from the jump. He's paid me a generous booking fee. I've stuck with him since the first show. Everybody keeps kind of bailing in and out to see if like things are going to get better, but like things have been perfectly fine for me. That he gives me good matches, and at the end of the day, the only thing I care about, the pay is nice. Pay is always fantastic. I just want to be able to have a good match that I can be proud of, that entertain the fans, and that I can also put on social media to potentially get signed somewhere, because at the end of the day, that's the goal.
Yeah, most definitely.
But Majestic's good in that sense. Every company takes a little bit to get off their feet, but he's already got some really, really big things in store. We are having JTG from Crime Time come in September for a paid show. This is going to be my first time working a name and singles action. I've worked Eugene and Sledge from ROH in a tag match before, not together, like separate occasions.
But, separate, yeah.
And Sam Stackhouse from GCW, he's a mainstay here in Oklahoma. He's one of my mentors, honestly, like a big brother to me. So I've wrestled him a dozen times.
Nice.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. I've interviewed a handful of GCW talent, always looking for more. So Sam Stackhouse, I was very familiar with him. Another promotion that I've heard of off and on, because I interviewed a handful of people from the Oklahoma, Texas area. Heartland Championship Wrestling and Empire Pro. What are some of those shows like there? Because I've heard from a couple people. I like hearing different perspectives.
So Majestic and Empire are both, I'm the heavyweight champion of both of those companies currently. Empire was more or less my home company, because obviously the trainers that I was working with coming up, they all had their shows. Empire, however, was the company when I came back in March to give me my big break, essentially. Like, they were booking me. They're like, we trust you, kid. Like, we think you can do something, that kind of thing. So a couple of years ago is when I started with Empire. And since then, I've kind of just it's like with Majestic, I tried to do everything in my power to just put my foot forward, like an extra foot forward, maybe help guys where they might need help, or like be on a flyer passing out team, or, like, let me get some tickets and try to sell them to people at my work, kind of thing. Like, I always try to go a little bit extra. It always kind of seemed to fall short with Empire in the sense, because like they don't necessarily have plans to become like the biggest indie wrestling company of all time. They're there to promote an Oklahoma City product, best Oklahoma City wrestling, best Oklahoma wrestling. Like, they're there to entertain their crowd and potentially get some new people to come in. Obviously, new fans is always fantastic, but in my opinion, I don't think Empire is necessarily thinking about like IWTV or stuff like that. Like, they do have like a local TV deal in Brooklyn, New York, I believe, which is good. It's just like a lot of those guys on there are kind of a bit older. They want to do this for the weekend. They want to have this as like some hobby kind of thing. And that's fantastic. There's a place in wrestling for everybody. There's a place in every wrestling for everybody. But you also have to recognize your place at the same time. And a lot of those guys think they're probably above where they should be. But Empire is fantastic. Like, they've always treated me great. They've always kind of done right by me. Like, I've always been paid. I've always been booked well. The only thing that ever comes up is like one time we had a finish that nobody communicated to me. Like, it was like a surprise finish type thing, and it like made me cry for real in front of like a whole crowd. So I felt kind of embarrassed at that time, but like it makes for a more special moment now that I'm thinking about it. Empire's great though. They're gonna be in Oklahoma City forever. That company is such a like they're always cruising. They're always cruising and they always hit the ups and they always go back to cruising. Like there's never a down, I think. Heartland Championship Wrestling is like the vacation for all the Oklahoma guys. Like it's like a lot of so Drake Gallows, my trainer that I mentioned to you. He has a guy that helped train him a lot called Billy Simmons, who is the promoter for Heartland Championship Wrestling. So it's kind of like I know this promoter that knows this promoter that knows that promoter that trained me kind of thing. Like it's always like that. Like, somebody. Yeah. But he was running a company with a few other people called XWE in Kansas for a couple of years now, like a really long time. And so all of essentially Drake's guys, like his company's guys and like all of his trainees, they all get together and they go up to Kansas and we all just have like a fun little Oklahoma party up there with all the Kansas talent, because Kansas has talent out the wazoo right now. It is insane. And like, it's funny because no one ever thinks like, premier indie destination, Kansas. No one ever thinks that, but like there's incredible talent. Like Chance Kerrigan, I'm about to wrestle him next month or this. Oh God, it's in 2 weeks. We're in August.
Yeah, we're in August now.
Yeah, so I'm about to wrestle him in a few weeks at Heartland's premiere show. Heartland is basically the daughter company now because like XWE kind of broke off. Like the two guys that owned XWE, they whatever may have happened there, not my business, but they decided to break off. And Billy started up Heartland Championship Wrestling. So there's gonna be a new company in Kansas, and it's gonna be a lot of great talent. Like I said, I'm wrestling Chance Kerrigan. I mean, Stormy Renee is going to be there. That's one of my best friends. Me and the Rebel Hearts will be there. I mean, like Remington, he's not going to be at this show, but he's a part of the roster. So, like Kansas just has so many great talent, and the state doesn't have like a license. You don't need a license to wrestle there. So it's a fantastic opportunity to go and get like bigger reps, so to say.
Oh yeah. Nope. I've had a handful of people that I'm friends with here in my area venture on down to Kansas, so I know they got.
Yeah, Christian Temple is one of my buddies. I'm in the Rebel Hearts, and he's been trying to get me to come up to Nebraska forever.
Oh yeah, nope. I'm familiar with them. They, oh boy, I'm trying to remember the MWA, the promotion.
Yeah, I think that's what they're called.
Seen them at. I haven't been there in a while. The last one I was at, my two of my good friends actually won the tag titles there. Think they've since lost them, but hey, that's what happens in pro wrestling. People can't hold on to that shit forever.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you could try. I mean, good Lord, look
Roman Reigns is doing a pretty good job right now.
Yeah, he's. I was just about to say that Roman Reigns has done a pretty damn good job of.
I think once we reach the 2-year marker, I was like,
hasn't had it.
Once we reached the 2-year marker with his reign, I was like, oh, it's just never going to end.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of back the way it was for me growing up. It was like back when WWE was still having like shows on syndication, and you'd see people seemingly holding on to them for like 2-3 years at a time.
Yeah, man, like that's another thing is like I wasn't alive for when like Hulk Hogan or Bruno Sammartino went on those like crazy runs. So the only thing I have in consideration to think about before Roman Reigns for like a crazy title run would be like John Cena, CM Punk, and like AJ Styles. Those are the only 3 dudes I can think of that held it for like longer than 400 days.
Oh yeah,
like it just was unheard of for a couple of decades. It's strange to see it now too, because like it happened for him. I feel like he was maybe the 3rd or 4th guy I would have picked at the time, because like when did he start? Like 2018, 2019. I would have guessed Randy Orton, Brock Lesnar, or anyone else, honestly. But like they chose to go with Roman, which is fine because like obviously the storylines are killing. So.
Oh yeah, and although as of recording this, we're right before SummerSlam. And word is going around. Who knows? Maybe that whole deal will be coming to, at least this chapter of it coming to a close. It's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah.
Now, before we move on to my couple of categories I have here, what is next for Logan Knight?
What do you mean? Like next show, or like what's beyond local?
Next show, what's some stuff you would like to see yourself doing in the near future? Stuff like that.
I do have a couple of big opportunities coming up, and I've had a few decent sized opportunities so far this year. I'm more so just hoping to continue to like work. Like I got to continue to work on my ring stuff as always. Like everybody should be training in the ring all the time. Like a lot of wrestlers love to get complacent and just like they complete their training and they're like, wow, I never need to go back ever again. That's very much not the case. So I need to get my training. Like I go to training now, so just got to keep at it. I've been Remington. I don't know if you know this. Remington is also like a nutritionist and a trainer. So for the last couple months,
he gives off that I can get that sense from.
Yeah. So for the last couple months, I've been on like a diet and a workout plan that he's been giving me. So I just got to keep at that to really see some results. But as far as like that kind of stuff matters in wrestling, like how healthy you are and how you look and stuff. And I've never been a big body guy. I don't think you need to be a body guy to make it in wrestling. And honest to God, to tell you the truth, I think it's a little it's cookie cutter in my opinion. But at the same time, you do need to give off the feel that you're an athlete of some sort, because a lot of people love to hate on Eddie Kingston. Can you go in the ring as long as Eddie Kingston can, though? That's the thing. He can take a hit, and that's considered athletic. So
he's one of my absolute favorite.
But at the same time, I do like to recognize that even if I'm not a body guy, being a body guy is going to significantly help, because like anything I can possibly do to help myself get to that next level, I'm going to do. So I'm just really hoping to get any sort of opportunity. AEW does not come through Oklahoma, and personally to me, that's my favorite company right now. That's my favorite kind of wrestling. I love what they do. Obviously not top to bottom, I don't love what they do, but like that's with every wrestling company. It's not everything is meant to be everyone's cup of tea. But however, they are my cup of tea right now. And if I was to get signed, if I could choose anywhere to get signed right now, that would be it. So if they would love to come through Oklahoma and maybe give me a little dark match, that'd be fantastic. But that's kind of where I'm sitting. I have that big match coming up with JTG. I'm hoping I do well enough in that match to maybe I don't know, garner some sort of connections, because he's in the NWA currently, and he did really big stuff in like Texas Indies for the last couple of years. So I'm hoping maybe I can get on some bigger Texas companies. That's always the case, man. You just got to like meet people that you think are doing better than you and hopefully get a connection out of it and like maybe turn some heads. So like I got a bunch of stuff coming up. I'm really looking forward to it. Majestic's hosting their show next Friday, where I'm going to be defending against a newer guy in Oklahoma called Lunchador. He does like a lunch guy kind of luchador gimmick, like he's like a fast food worker kind of thing.
That's different.
It's phenomenal. It is incredibly over. I whenever I first met him and he showed me this gimmick, I was like, I'm kind of jealous. I was like, I feel like you're gonna get signed because of this. Like, this is some funny stuff. Because like I don't know if you ever knew what Chikara was back in the day.
Yeah,
but,
I'm familiar
like Fire Ant and like Blue Ant and stuff like that. That was always like my jam. I always loved wacky characters like that. And so when he presented that to me, I was like, "Are you a like Orange Cassidy mark or something? Like, what is this? This is awesome." But yeah, I'm just hoping that like with the opportunities I have put in place in front of me right now, that I just knock it out of the park and get something out of it. I have worked extra work for WWE in the past. I did it in January this year. They're about to do a 2-date weekend here in Oklahoma in October, so I'm going to hopefully try to get on that. Gabe Sapolsky, who's the scout for WWE right now, he is coming to Core Professional Wrestling, where I'm a tag team champion right now. He's coming on our show August 18th to come check it out, watch the show, see what's going on in Oklahoma, that kind of thing. And on Sunday, he's hosting like a seminar tryout situation. So hopefully that goes good for me. I don't ever expect to get signed off of those kinds of things, because I remember when I was a teenager and I was like, oh God, I want to be a pro wrestler, that kind of thing. I was always like on the internet, and I would be like watching Just Incredible's videos, like how to be a pro wrestler and that kind of thing. And I remember reading this one story about Daniel Bryan, who is one of the, in my opinion, the best wrestlers of all time. He's like easily got to be like top 20, something like that.
Oh yeah.
I remember reading a story being told that he was told 12 times no by WWE before he was told yes. So obviously that's going to be a lot of eating shit sandwiches, which isn't going to be entirely fun. But I'm the type of guy where it's like, if I do make it at that tryout, God bless, that's awesome. But I would love to know what I'm doing wrong. Like, that's what I want to know. At least in their eyes, what I'm doing wrong.
Oh yeah. No, it's definitely one of those things that it's like you want to improve, but if like in those situations, if let's say there's something you're missing, you'd like to know what that is. So like that opportunity comes back up again, boom, you fixed it.
Yeah.
No, most definitely. Now, I got two categories. One's a bit of a name game, I like to call it, where I sometimes theme it towards the guests, like, oh boy, John Wayne Murdoch. When I had him on, I themed it towards different opponents of his. Other times, I just kind of like my other category, I have a bit of a random question one. But sometimes during the name game, I'm just picking random people that like might have been through the area, or hell, I was just thinking about them at the time.
Yeah.
But I name off the name, you give me your first thoughts on them.
For sure.
First one, he's been a little MIA lately, although he's been popping up back with AEW. A guy that actually up in my little collections up there, my autograph figures, I actually have one of him. Keith Lee.
I love, like, man, when I first started getting back into wrestling, when I was doing wrestling training, like I say first getting back into wrestling, when I started my wrestling training when I was 19, I had not been watching wrestling product for about 2 years at the time. Other stuff took over my life. I kind of just fell through the cracks. I kind of forgot about it. When I came back, I had never watched NXT, never. So when I came back to watching wrestling, it was beginning of 2018 NXT. So it was like Dusty Classic with Undisputed Era, Pete Dunne, that stuff. So at the time, I remember watching this era of NXT and losing my marbles because I had never seen anything like that. Like I'm telling you, 2017 to like 2020 NXT was the most peak wrestling I could possibly imagine. And it was funny too, because it was peak wrestling from dudes you didn't even think were capable of giving that kind of wrestling. So God, I love NXT. Keith Lee being on that brand at the time was amazing, because when I first saw him, I wasn't like, oh, this isn't some fat guy. He's not like fat either. He's like that weird like uncle at the cookout that has like the beer gut, but he can like lift a Fiat 500 halfway over his head, like that kind of thing. It's like, who are you, dude?
Or like if you try to, like, I know one of my late uncle was kind of the same way, where like he had that gut, but like, let's say you jokingly tried to just like, and he'd like invite us to sometimes like kind of like tap in the gut, and it would feel like a damn bowling ball in his freaking abdomen.
It's the singular ab. It's just one.
Yeah. All you need is one when that damn ab is so freaking hard.
Yeah, but Keith Lee, I think Keith Lee is fantastic. I think he is like one of the most talented athletes because after I found out about him on NXT, I started looking at his indie stuff and I actually ended up finding out that I know people that know him personally. Like there's people that I work with that like trained with him and I'm like, that's wild. Yeah, but Keith, he's really, really talented. I am gonna be honest and say I'm disappointed with his AEW stuff, but
A
that's
little
I
lately.
really don't think that's on him. Like the him and Swerve was really good at the time, but now it's like I haven't cared too much since he came back from his illness, I think it was.
Yeah. No, I agree. Like there's that that feud that they've been teasing between him and Swerve. I'm like, dude, just get to that already because that would
just
be
get it over with.
killer. Like, that would be killer. But yeah, no, I remember you were bringing up him in NXT. The clip that pops into my mind right off the top of anything when it comes to Keith Lee, it was like Adam Cole was by the very bottom of the entrance, and then here comes Keith Lee and just yeets him into the fucking crowd. It's like, oh my god, that was
man.
Sweet.
God, that's gonna be iconic in my head forever. I love Adam Cole so much. That arguably is probably my favorite wrestler.
You know what? Next person that he wasn't next that I listed, but he was on my list. Adam Cole. We'll just jump right into it.
Adam Cole, dude. God, man, I love him. I know he gets a lot of heat for his size and stuff like that, but like I said, I'm not entirely a body guy. It doesn't matter. Adam Cole is unbelievably talented. I think when you can talk on the mic like he can, when you can run matches like he can, when you can do the kind of just like uber talented, like how can you say this guy's not athletic after you watch a match of his? Like you can look at him and maybe be like, oh, this looks like a casual frat guy I'd meet on the weekend. But like if I met a casual frat guy like Adam Cole on the weekend, I'd probably need to get a drug test because that guy is crazy. That's another thing is like I don't think people realize just how good he is because like I watched Adam Cole when he was on Ring of Honor. I used to watch Ring of Honor like crazy when I was a kid because like I was saying about like the 2017-2020 era of NXT, that's all Ring of Honor was. Like they literally just took everybody from Ring of Honor that was still active and just threw them right on NXT, and it was amazing.
Oh yeah, no, most definitely, and like current Adam Cole with the stuff that they've got going with him and MJF, I'm like, at first I was like a little, but then lately I'm like, holy shit, this stuff is entertaining. Like,
when he first came back and they were doing the stuff with Chris Jericho, I was like, I love Chris Jericho and I love Adam Cole, but like something's not right. Yeah. And so now that we've moved on to the MJF stuff, I'm kind of like, oh yeah, something dirty's gonna happen here. I can feel it.
Like the current thing that they're doing, kind of semi good guy stuff. I'm like, it's entertaining, but good Lord, I've said this before. Those two, MJF, we all know what he can do on the mic. You get Adam Cole back to where he was with, you brought up Ring of Honor, back in those days, back New Japan, back some of that early Undisputed Era stuff. Holy shit, you give him the mic and let him be that? Oh my God.
Yeah.
It is going to be epic.
Which is fantastic for the gimmick right now because like Adam Cole was heel on his way out of NXT and he shows up to AEW completely face. And so the fact that he's signing with MJF right now is weird, but it's so funny because MJF, like me, idolized Adam Cole. And so he's kind of just like a giddy little kid tagging with his idol kind of thing. And I love it.
Oh man, I am absolutely loving it. Next up, a guy that I got a story with this guy, like a semi run-in that I had with him. But one of my absolute favorites right now, Kevin Owens.
Kevin Owens, yeah. Kevin Owens is fantastic, man. I can't say enough good things about Kevin Owens. Another guy where I'm like, you don't have to be a body guy to be a top guy. Like Kevin Owens, regardless of this tag title being his first title in 7 years or whatever the hell people were complaining about a couple months ago, that dude has not needed a title once to be successful. It's like Roddy Piper. He didn't need a title. Everybody, anytime anybody saw him, they were like, that guy kicks ass. Like, that's just like. And then he able to make a retired ass Stone Cold come out of retirement and wrestle him.
Yeah.
Like, Stone Cold said for a clean decade and a half that he was never going to wrestle again. Like, he did not give a shit who it was. And then Kevin Owens comes about and he's like, you know what? Fuck it. I'll do it. Like, that kind of thing. So, like, I think if you're able to pull one of the biggest legends of all time off the retirement bench and then have a banger match with him at WrestleMania, you might be one of the all-time greats, dude.
Oh, yeah. No, most definitely. And good Lord. That match right there, which I was a little hesitant at first, but I was excited because, huge Stone Cold fan that I am. Like,
I was worried for Stone Cold in the fact of, like, what has happened to Undertaker, Goldberg, Triple H when they come back after all those years. I'm like, man, I don't want to see that.
That match was pretty damn good.
Yeah, it was pretty good. He didn't get hurt either. So I was like, hey.
Yeah. No, most definitely. And the little story that I mentioned with my kind of run-in with Kevin Owens, my wife and I were on vacation to Disney World, and we were with some of my family. We're on our way out, and I think I dropped something. So, like, I bent down to pick it up, and on my way up, I look over, and I see that tattoo of the T-Rex skull on his shoulder, and I'm just like, oh. And, like, I could see that he was with his family. So I was like, I know I saw him. I'm going to leave it at that because I don't want to cause, like, a big commotion and then he's getting time taken away from his family. But I remember that I
have a similar story like that with Roman Reigns.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to a show in Oklahoma City, and, like, I want to say back in the Shield era, I want to say it was like 13 or 14 at the time, but they were in Oklahoma City, and I forgot at the time they were coming down in their entrance, like they were coming down from, like, the second leveling of the entrance and stuff like that. And so a match had just ended, and I'm like, I need to go pee. And I get up and I go up to the restroom area of the arena, and which is the upper deck from where we were. And I'm sitting there peeing in the urinal, and this dude gets to the urinal next to me, and I look over and I go, oh, holy fuck, you're Roman Reigns. I was like a 13-year-old, and he goes, yeah, I'm Roman Reigns. And I was like, okay, but we're pissing right now, so I probably shouldn't, like, fangirl right now.
Oh, man, that's something. Like, my thing with Kevin Owens, I just remember after I got done thinking, you know what, I saw him, I know I did. I just remember running up to my wife because she was a few steps ahead of me. I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. It was something else.
Yeah, same kind of feeling.
Oh, yeah. Last but not least for this name game, a guy that is synonymous with Oklahoma when it comes to professional wrestling, Jim fucking Ross.
You said John Cross?
Jim Ross.
Oh, Jim Ross. I thought you said John Cross. That's a pretty big local guy around here. Yeah, no, Jim Ross. Jim Ross is great. He was like the voice of my childhood. Him and King. So I always love JR, but I will admit he's getting a little geriatric in AEW, so it's funny. But I know he's experiencing some health issues, so I'm not gonna gonna dig on him too hard. But at the same time, it is very funny because I remember a couple of months ago I was watching the segment between the women, and honest to God, it was just like a clusterfuck. It was not fantastic. He's on commentary and he goes, oh. what the hell's going on? I'm like, are you good, bro?
Oh yeah. No, he's definitely had some of those moments, we'll put it that way. But, you know, he's, like you said, the voice of a lot of people's childhoods when it comes to professional wrestling fans. So gotta love him. Now on to my kind of random questioning category. I never really know some of these questions that I'm going to put in here. This is definitely the one that I kind of just throw together when I'm putting together my notes.
Yeah.
I give you a question. Some might be wrestling related. Some might not be. You just give me the first answer that pops in your head. First one, craziest in-match moment for you.
Like personally in a match that I've been in?
Yes.
I want to tell this crazy story of when I was a security guard in this match at a Mid-South show.
That's totally fine.
That was pretty crazy.
Do that one.
Okay, that's fine. So there was this ladder match between Abyss and my trainer Drake Gallows. I was working security, like ringside security at the time. And in this match, it was a Monsters Ball match, which is like Abyss's bread and butter. It's his like gimmick match. So it was like there was a couple of other people in this match, but I don't entirely remember them being like official. Like I think it was just like a heel faction kind of like coming to fuck it over kind of thing. Yeah. But they were. This shit's crazy. They in the arena for Mid-South, it was at the Oklahoma City Farmers Market, so it's like a concrete floor, no padding. They have a tall boy ring. They put a 18, maybe 20-foot ladder in the middle of the ring, and then they put 4 tables on the bare concrete on the outside of the ring, stacked like they're double stacked. They do a superplex. Not Abyss and Drake, but Drake and this guy that tried to run in on the match. They do a superplex from the top of the ladder inside of the ring, 40 feet down into 2 ladders or 2 tables into concrete. And I was like, at the time, I was like, oh my God, this is the most badass thing I have ever seen. But these guys are definitely dead, right? And so like I go over and I check on them in the rubble, and Drake, my trainer, instead of being in agony like he should be, he looks me in the eyes and goes, "Still want to do this?" And I was like, I don't think so. I don't want to specifically do this.
That is wild.
Yeah.
I know for me, one of the craziest in-match moments that I've ever witnessed personally actually kind of semi-involves a Monsters Ball match, because the match right before this moment happened was a Monsters Ball match. And like they still had thumbtacks, barbed wire, there was some other shit all throughout the ring. They were getting ready to clean it up. And Jake Christ rolls in and is like, fuck that, leave it, let's go. And then boom, match starts. It's craziness. It ended by them bridging. They took 4 folding chairs, bridged 2 panes of glass on there, and then lit the glass on fire.
Yeah, Jake Christ is crazy. I've met him a few times before. My tag partner Derek, he was the heavyweight champion for Drake's company about a year and a half ago, and his first singles match against a name, so to say, was Jake Christ. And so I had met Jake Christ. Me and him both have met Jake Christ a few times before that, like in Kentucky and stuff, because he wrestles in that kind of area over there. Like Kentucky,
Ohio,
Tennessee.
Kentucky there, yeah.
But Jake Christ, a standout guy. He's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, no, I had him on the podcast. It actually right before the it was actually right after the video of him burning the IWA Mid-South belt. And I remember I always kind of chuckle at this, that kind of how I asked him to come on was kind of how I remember hearing Paul Heyman talk about how he convinced Steve Austin to come to ECW, where he was like,
Right.
"You got a grievance, I got a show, let's air it."
Yeah.
It was fun.
And when that video dropped of him burning the title, I was like, yes.
Yes. That was awesome. And then I've got to actually meet him and Bobby 2 separate times since then. Nothing but great things to say about the both of them.
Yeah.
Next up, now I've had people on the podcast that like they either just choose to not drink or they're like recovering alcoholics, but I still have, because I feel like I feel weird not having a question like this with the name of a show like Drinkin' at Moe's. Favorite drink, whether it be alcoholic, non, or hell, one of each.
Man, my favorite like non-alcoholic drink is probably, I've been really knocking the body armors out of the park, like those little like okay. They're not Gatorades, they're like almost off-brand Gatorades, but I like those a lot. I really, really like zero sugar Monster, like the original flavor, not like those weird like white, pink, blue, red cans, like all that stuff. I like the original flavor. Man, if it's not like, because like I have to be careful with what I drink. I can't drink like soda and ice cream, even though I do kind of treat myself to that kind of thing every other now and then. But like that strawberry Dr. Pepper, man, that is a life-altering invention. But if we're talking like alcoholic drinks, I think my favorite mixed drink's probably like a margarita. It's really basic. But lately with like beers and stuff, I've really been liking cheladas, like Bud Light cheladas.
I do
just because when I was a kid, my mom always gave me like V8 tomato juice, and like I loved it, and so it tastes exactly like that.
Oh yeah, no, I've definitely grown fond of those, and I mean, hell, I can't go wrong with a good margarita.
Yeah, no, and like honestly, the cheladas have a decent amount of protein in them, and that's like kind of what my diet's kind of based around right now. So it's like it's beer at the end of the day, so it's bad for me, but at least there's like a little bit of good in there.
Good way to think about it. Good way to think about it. Now, this one, I would have to do some thinking on this one as far as an answer for me personally. But I've always found kind of interesting hearing other people's stories about different phobias they have. What would you say is a phobia of yours?
I don't think I have necessarily like a phobia. I do. I am horrified of the ocean. Like, I guess that is a phobia, but like I would still go on a boat maybe, or even like potentially swim on the shore. But the ocean is just my grandma, when she used to babysit me when I was a kid, used to somehow every time she babysat me, it was conveniently Shark Week. I don't know if that was like a sick joke or it actually was Shark Week, but yeah, I am just scared of the ocean. We know more about space than our own ocean, and that is alarming and not something I like to think about.
Yeah, and I mean, you know what? In all honesty, me being a Navy veteran, this might seem kind of weird, but when it comes to the ocean, if I can't see the bottom, put me in a damn boat. I don't want to be in the damn water. Yeah. Put me in a damn boat. Yeah. Because I'm the exact same way, man. Oh God, it's like I don't like not knowing what's beneath me. Like I don't like the idea of a great white shark being so far below me that I can't see it, and then all of a sudden it's like boom, it's there.
It just exists. Yeah. I've seen videos of like scuba divers and stuff like that where they're like so deep in the water that they don't see a shark coming at them until it's like 5 feet from their head. And I'm like, I'm good on that.
No,
just not my cup of tea. I would rather probably be in the Amazonian wilderness, like, than be in the middle of the ocean. I feel like I have at least a fighting chance.
Yeah, because man, I can remember on my deployment being out, having to do some work on something outside, and then like you look on each side of you, like all 360, and it's nothing but water. And it's just like, this is freaky.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, most definitely. Now, this one, there could be loads of different talks. I know I have kind of a list of people that I would put in this for an answer for myself. But what would you say is a favorite wrestler of yours from growing up? I know we kind of talked little bits about it.
Yeah. Growing up, it was like Edge, AJ Styles, Miz, those kind of guys. There's something different about him. Nobody really gives Miz the respect that he deserves. So I understand I'll get laughed at sometimes for saying that. I have been laughed at for saying that. But the fact of the matter is, if any indie wrestler would love to laugh at me about my favorite wrestler being The Miz, just know that he's got millions and millions of dollars for being bad at wrestling. So that's all I'm going to say.
He's main evented a WrestleMania and won.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's something there.
Yeah, there is something there, and I think what people don't understand is like he may not be the guy, but when there's not the guy around, he's their fallback every time.
Oh, most of you know what? Now that I think about that, there is a lot of truth to that. Now, two of the guys you brought up, I've actually met at different points. Like, I literally, let me see if I can pull it out here if I can find it. Yes. A bunch. I still got to get these framed and put up, but I got some signed DVD covers of Lockdown 2007 signed by AJ Styles.
That is badass.
And, well, I got a couple that are signed by Edge, but this one is probably my absolute favorite. The 2007 Elimination Chamber, where it looks like he's biting the cage.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. Yeah, Edge is definitely probably my favorite. Like, if he's not my favorite of all time, he's easily like top 3. He's up there. Like, I love Edge. When I did extra work back in January, that was the guy I worked for, actually, funny enough. So nice. it was almost like they went to the back and asked us who our favorite wrestlers were, and then we got to work with them. It was funny. But yeah, I got to do a pull apart segment with Judgment Day and Edge and stuff like that. So it was nice. Like, I don't know, man, dream come true. I loved Edge, and he was so nice to me, man. He was really nice.
Oh, yeah. When I got to meet him, nothing but nice. Now, I know for me, the one that, like, if I ever actually got to meet him, I swear I don't get starstruck too easily, but I don't know if I'd be able to get a word out with him because I'd just be like, holy shit, he's actually right in front of me. Stone Cold Steve Austin. Yeah. Like, I swear.
That's probably a really... That's intimidating, man. That's got to be intimidating. I think it's the same way with like The Rock. If I saw The Rock, I'd be like, what the fuck? Like, what is happening now? Because like I try to be professional. Like whenever I was meeting all those names at the while doing extra work, obviously you have to be professional. You're there to do a job. So it was like had to be really nice and act like I was like I knew what I was doing and stuff like that. But like on the inside, I was like, I'm working for Edge. I was like, I'm technically an Edge head now, if you think about it.
Yeah, like I just keep on. I have this image in my head of if I ever got to meet him. Like I have a few figures and stuff back there of him that I'd just be walking up and be like, here. Yeah, I'm like, holy crap, it's actually you. Here, please. Yeah. Oh my god.
That for me, that would probably be Ric Flair. If I ever met Ric Flair, I would probably just combust on the spot.
Oh yeah. No, but you know what? Oddly enough, and there's some people here in Omaha that are kind of not really happy with him this last year because he was scheduled to be at the World of Wheels, that same kind of thing that I met Edge at. But
Yeah.
it happened to be the same day he was scheduled for a convention in New York alongside his daughter, Charlotte. So he didn't go up here to Omaha, and he was there, which, I mean, on one hand, I can't really blame him. He's getting to spend time with his daughter. But
Yeah.
on the other hand, there's that fan in me that was like, well, damn it.
Yeah, I had a chance to go down to Dallas to do like a shoot with, or not like a shoot with him, but like he was doing like a signing. That's the word I was looking for. He was doing a signing down in Dallas at this like sports expo type of thing. It wasn't even like a wrestling related venture. It's just like a sports expo. And I just didn't go. And I regret it because I feel like we're getting to that age where it's like if I don't meet Ric Flair right now, I might not. Like,
yeah. No, I totally understand you there. Hell, just recently, I didn't realize the kind of condition that he was in, but I actually, another figure that I got up there, Rikishi, his Fatu figure, because it was in my first ever WWE show. I got him to sign that, and yeah, he, in his defense, I mean, his body has been put through the ringer. He just looked like he didn't seem like in too great of a mood.
Yeah, he might have just had a bad day. Who knows?
No, man, that's the way I looked at it. I mean, when interacting with him, totally nice, but just that the facials just made it look like, oh God, I am hurting right now.
Yeah, that might just be, I feel like all Samoans kind of just have that face where you can't tell if like they're either in pain or they want to kill you.
I've actually interviewed another member of his family, and I mean, totally nice dude, nothing but great things to say about him. But like, if you just sat there with him plain faced, he would look intimidating as hell.
Was it Jacob?
Lloyd.
Fonzu? Who?
Lloyd Anoa'i.
Oh, okay. Jacob Fatu is pretty big on the indies right now, so I figured maybe you got a hold of him.
Oh God, I would love to have him on, but yeah. No, he is definitely an intimidating looking dude himself.
Yeah,
most definitely. Now, last but not least, best advice for anybody wanting to get into wrestling.
Go to a show, do it. The only thing that's gonna like get you into wrestling is going to wrestling. You will find out about training schools eventually. When I was like I said, I had a really hard time finding out if there was a local scene in Oklahoma. I found out from tons of other people. I am not alone in that experience. There's still people having that experience to this day, which is tough. I feel like I'm doing a lot. I have like 3,000 followers on Facebook, like a couple thousand on the other socials. So I feel like I'm doing my due diligence and like getting the promotion out there and like trying to make sure everybody knows that there's Oklahoma wrestling. Just go to a show, find out who's giving training. If you need to drive hundreds of miles to go to training, do it. I did it. I may not be the shit yet, but who knows? I may be in the future. So it's like it'll pay off eventually. Everybody's got different goals in wrestling too. So if that's not your goal, then figure out what your goal is.
Yeah. No, I've definitely done some drives for wrestling shows. I think furthest ones was either AEW hasn't come to Nebraska either. I had to go with a friend down to Kansas City, which is about 3 hours. And then Sammy Callahan's promotion, Wrestling Revolver, does shows periodic. They like flip-flop between Ohio and Des Moines. I've gone to a handful of the Des Moines stops, and that is about a good 2.5, 3 hours. So yeah, sometimes you gotta do a little bit of traveling, but hey, if it's something you want to do, it'll be worth it.
Yeah, you got to do a lot of bit of traveling. I'm sitting on 13,000 driven miles this year already, which may sound a little low, but it's like I'm over halfway around the world, like as far as like circumference of Earth, you know. So
Yeah.
I feel like in some way that's an accomplishment. I've driven so much that I'm halfway around the world right now.
Hey, that is some. And you know what? Funny little fact before we wrap up. You mentioned driving distance and it equaling about halfway around the world. In my life, well, actually, you know what? I'll go just in the Navy. In my 4 years, all throughout, covered about half the globe.
Yeah.
So yeah,
wrestling is an excellent source of getting to travel adventure kind of thing too. So.
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. I've heard plenty of great stories. Well, that is about all I have. Before we go, where can people find you social media wise so if they don't already have their eyes on Logan Knight, they can go ahead and get them there?
I am on pretty much everything. I'm at Logan Knight Pro on Twitter, Instagram, pretty much anything else. My Gmail, if any bookers are looking at this, it's the same thing. It's Logan Knight Pro Gmail. I'm on TikTok, Logan Knight 26, I think. I'm on Facebook under that name as well. So I'm hoping I'm the most famous Logan Knight, but you never know. I could be a little less popular than someone else, but those are my social medias. I'm on social media all the time. I put myself on social media all the time. I do a monthly vlog. I love putting myself out there to get as much eyes as possible. So, I have plenty of content for everybody trying to watch.
Oh, most definitely. We'll get links all in the description of both YouTube and the audio platforms. But anyways, that, like I said, that is about all I have. I want to thank you for taking the time to talk to me tonight, and best of luck out there. And hopefully we'll be seeing your name on some of those big stages out there.
I'm hoping so, man. I appreciate you.